Welcome back. In this lesson, I'm going to cover the Open Systems Interconnection or OSI model. The OSI model is a conceptual model that helps diverse communication systems to communicate using standard protocols. You can think of it as a universal language for networking. It's composed of several layers which are abstracted from each other, and they help us to understand what's going on at each level. So let's look at the OSI model. We start at the bottom with the physical layer, then we have the data link layer, the network layer, the transport layer, the session layer, the presentation layer, and the application layer, for a total of 7 layers. Now we need to understand what's happening at each of these layers. At the physical layer on the bottom here, we're concerned with moving bits over the network. And we've got things like coaxial cable, fiber cables, wireless connections, Ethernet ports, those kind of things. So it's the media, the signal, and the binary transmission of data across the network. We then have layer 2, the data link layer. At this layer, we're talking about frames being sent over the network. We have communication technologies like Ethernet, 802.11, which is wireless technology. We have media access control addressing and logical link control addressing as well. We then have packets being sent at layer 3. Here we have Internet Protocol IP, IP Security IPsec, and the Internet Communication Message Protocol ICMP, amongst others. So this is where we're actually performing routing. This is where the IP addresses that we use get routed so that we can get to the destination. So remember that path determination is happening here. So that's how do I get to a destination, and that's the IP protocol that's being used. On layer 4 we have segments, and this is where TCP, the transmission control protocol, lives. We've got UDP here, user datagram protocol, and transport layer security TLS as well, as just a few examples. So here we're concerned with end-to-end communications and the reliability of the transport. At layer 5, we're starting to get into where the data is being sent. So the next 3 layers is all about sending the actual data. So the applications are communicating to each other and sending data. That data is going to be some bits on a wire at layer 1. It's going to be frames at layer 2. It's going to be encapsulated into packets at layer 3 and segments at layer 4. At layer 5, we're concerned with inter-host communication. So again, it's making sure that we have that reliability. These sessions in the layer here are going to ensure that we're getting the data sent and that we're getting responses back to communicate to the sending host that the data has been received. So we have transmission control protocol here as well, and also RPC, the remote procedure call. Next, at the presentation layer, this is where we have things like secure socket layer. We have FTP, SSH, and HTML. So here we're representing the data in some form, and we're potentially encrypting that data as well. And then finally, at layer 7, we have the networking services being delivered to the end user applications. So protocols like HTTP, FTP, SSH, and DNS. We can also have APIs running at this level as well. So those are the 7 layers of the OSI model. Now, mostly we're going to be using the TCP IP protocol. So that's the Transmission Control Protocol, Internet Protocol. Now, TCP IP actually has its own model as well. And it doesn't quite correspond with exactly the same layers, but it does map fairly close. So for the TCP IP model, the network access layer covers layer 1 and layer 2 of the OSI model. They then have the internet layer, which corresponds with layer 3 of the OSI model, the transport layer at layer 4, and then they just have an application layer which covers layers 5, 6, and 7. Now, you don't often come up against this. The OSI model is the one that we'll talk about the most. So you'll often hear network engineers talking about something running at layer 3 or layer 4 or layer 2, and that's why it's really important to understand the OSI model. Now please remember, this is a conceptual model, so it's not always 100% clear exactly where a protocol runs, and you'll sometimes hear some heated debates about whether something runs at layer 4 or layer 5. Not too important to get involved in that, just understand at a basic level what the different layers are. Some protocols it's very clear exactly where they run, and network engineers will talk in concepts of the OSI model very often, so you do need to understand what it is. So hopefully that helps, and I'll see you in the next lesson.